Welcome back to Philosophical Jew. This series of free will has been really interesting to me, and I've enjoyed doing all the research that I did. It was really fun. I really like learning about this stuff, especially meshing Jewish philosophy with philosophy in the world, and I live for this stuff. I really enjoy it. So I hope you did too, and if you have any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. And now that we've sort of gone through a lot of different ideas, from determinism to free will, from the Jewish sages, the panoply of Jewish thought, to the modern determinist viewpoints, I want to take a moment to step back. I never really give a conclusion as to what I believe. And I want to give you sort of two different things to think about. One of the things will be what I really believe logically makes sense. And the second thing is what I believe enough that I think that that's the best way that I should act. I know that sounds strange, but I'm sort of just living in this duality, and I don't think they really contradict each other. So, to tell you the truth, I personally think the view that intuitively makes the most sense to me is the view that Rabbi Moshe Sokol portrays of the Rambam, of Maimonides' viewpoint, that we are experiencing a causal link of many, many factors, of much information, of much history, of much emotion, and a lot of things that are in our minds, the information, the knowledge, the wisdom we were given, the vices we may contain, the virtues we may contain. We have all that in a causal link going back to the beginning of time. That's all there. But we also have this same deep self that allows us to reflect and allows us to make a choice based on the array of choices available to us. Again, I don't believe in the binary of the freedom of the will and the determinism of the will. And I'm also not a compatibilist, by the way. I think that's also just sort of a hidden determinist, honestly. And that is what I logically believe is true. I think that makes the most sense to me. I think it's very intuitive. I think that I can't really say that I don't understand the deterministic worldview. I really do get it. And I personally don't have a problem with saying that free will is a miracle, and that I don't know when this same deep self of mine occurs when I'm reflecting on my actions. I don't know if sometimes I'm just determined to reflect on my actions, or if I'm just acting out my will to reflect on my actions based on the causes that I've input in myself and the effects that come out of that. I have no idea. But I'm comfortable enough believing that it's a miracle. And I think that for someone who believes in spirituality and who is a theist, I don't think that that's an illogical conclusion to come to. Even if I were a materialist, I think there is a way to make sense of Rabbi Moshe Sokol description of Maimonides' view on free will, but I don't feel like I need to resort to that. I think that I'm fine believing in my subjective theistic experience and feeling most pulled toward that view. That's what I logically think makes the most sense. Now, the realization that I've come to is that sometimes what logically makes the most sense, I can't really act out, right? I can't act out that same deep self. I don't really know how to make sense of that when I'm actually experiencing life. I can't realize that my same deep self is having a moment. That's sort of beyond me. And I'm fine believing in the miracle, as I said before. So I'll tell you what I believe we should come away from this whole journey that we went on, discussing the freedom of the will or the determinism of the will. I believe there are multiple things at stake here, right? There is, do I have free will? Am I determined in how I act? There is also, is that person determined in how they act? Is that person free to act in the way they want to act? And there's another layer, which is, how should we run society? So personally for me, I am fine with acting as though I have free will, even however nuanced it may be. I think the term works for the way we use it. I think it's fine to treat myself as someone who believes that I have free will and the capacity to change, and I don't find any problem with that. And this is something I'm working towards this is number 2, how I would treat other people. I have noticed a little bit, time and time again, after delving into this topic, that sometimes when people do things that before learning about free will might have really irked me, I'm able to take a little bit of a step back and realize, maybe they're just determined to act that way at the moment. Maybe they just don't have free will right now. And it might sound silly, but it really works for me. And I think that it's a noble way to live your life. And I think it's a noble lesson to take from this. And on the other side of the coin, I think that it's given me more appreciation for when people act virtuously, especially if I know certain people and I know that certain behaviors are hard for them, but they try and they're doing it anyway. It really makes me appreciate what they might have gone through to achieve that. On a larger scale, society at large, I believe that it's a balance of looking at a person. This is difficult. This is not easy. It would be to look at a person and to think about their background, think about where they're from, think about what they're likely to do, think about if they have any resources to deal with that, give them the resources to deal with that, and treat people, depending on the case, as though they have free will or as though they are determined. Right? This is why we have first offenses and second offenses for certain minor crimes, in my opinion, because we know that it's almost inevitable that someone might commit a minor crime once if they're in a neighborhood in which that is the norm. And we want to dissuade that with a consequence. And, maybe if we look at this person and they have the tools to work with and they don't have any mental, incapacities or of some sort or something, then we can treat them as though they have free will after a certain amount of times. We can invest more resources into them. We can sort of see what works. There is a Vilna Gaon that comes to mind. A Vilna Gaon is a Jewish sage, medieval Jewish sage, and he essentially says that you must tailor education to the child, to the specific child. Some children learn better nowadays, through video. Some children learn better through books. Some children learn better through experience. You need to tailor things to the individual. And I think these have just been my thoughts on this whole free will journey, and I think that I've grown a little bit because of it. And the goal of all these videos really is to become more appreciative of the difficult, complex lives we live, and to really just enrich our lives with this knowledge. If you don't believe in any sort of free will, if the cases for determinism have been very overwhelmingly powerful to you, let me just leave you with a thought from Sam Harris. In that same episode, he says, "Causes matter. Change matters. And the capacity to make change matters. Reasoning is possible. Reason makes slaves of us all." So whether you believe in freedom of the will or not, do not lose your faith in the importance of the role that each of us has to play in the world. There is nothing wrong with believing that our lives are meaningful. Cherish life, even if it is, as the ethics of our fathers teaches us, lived against our will. Thank you so much for listening through this whole journey if you've made it this far. And if you haven't, thank you for listening to whatever you've listened to. It really means a lot. I hope that you like this video. If you do like it, please share and subscribe. Please remember there will be a Substack article linked to this video. I'll link it down below. Please leave me any comments and suggestions for future videos that you may have, any topics you're interested in. And if you really, really enjoy these videos, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It'll be linked down below. And I hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time.